Okay. Looks like we should be good. And if you are watching us on Fox Local, you can also, let's see, make sure. I think we should be good. Let me see. Yes, we're good. Okay. Alrighty. We're live all across the board. I wanted to make sure before I said any more. So yes, please weigh in if you have any questions. Once again, if you're watching us, we're live on Facebook, we're live on YouTube, and we are live on Fox Local. So please let me know where you're watching from, and we'll talk about this impressive winter storm. It's certainly been a while since we've seen a storm like this. It's going to impact so many people in such a big way.
And a hot topic on social media too.
Oh my God! Yeah, it's so true, Noah. It's been I feel like a hot topic. Yeah, here is a live look right now where it's really going to feel quite nice this weekend. If you're getting out and about, this is our iDrive cam, and we're looking off toward Volcano Bay, some of the Universal Orlando skyline, where it is not going to be wintry this weekend. In fact, it's going to be quite the opposite. This is our camera here in Lake Mary. Overall, a quiet Friday. Temperatures are continuing to warm up, and that's going to be the story through the remainder of our weekend ahead of this system. Now, we are going to get the chill once again, and we have issued a storm team alert for that reason, but we're not going to see any wintry weather like we saw last weekend, where we had that snow in the Panhandle, and we had wintry conditions, snow in Georgia, and snow across a good bit of the Southeast. Now, there are going to be some places in the Southeast that pick up ice, sleet, little snow, but at least in Florida, I don't think we're going to see anything this go around. But we'll continue to watch. Hi, Alice. Hey, Bonnie. Alrighty, so let's dive into where this system is right now. As we zoom things on out, excuse me, we can see moisture across Texas. We can see some snow across portions of Kansas, Nebraska, Colorado, westbound, some in Utah. But what is developing to the south is really the beginnings of this system. And as we go through time, we're going to start to see moisture meeting up with that cold air, and eventually seeing that breakout of sleet, freezing rain, and snow. So let's jump into that here. Let's scroll down here. Bear with me. Okay, here we go. Alrighty. So before we jump into the futurecast, here is the current setup right now in terms of alerts. You can see all the pink. Excuse me. And that is where we're going to see the heaviest of precipitation, whether that be heavy snow, whether that be a change from snow to sleet to freezing rain, everything in between. Now, farther to the south, if we zoom in here, you can see in the darker shades of purple, those are the ice storm warnings, and we'll have to actually add that to our little legend there. But ice storm warnings for the heavy amounts of freezing rain. Now, when we're saying freezing rain, we're talking about a glaze like a donut, almost like a glazed donut. It's that glaze of ice that just continues to stack up. It's rain that is freezing on contact, because down close to the ground we have temperatures that are at or below freezing. And as these drops of rain fall all the way down through the atmosphere, they hit that really shallow layer of cold, and they become super cold, and then they freeze on contact. They freeze on your car, they freeze on street lamps and power lines and the roadways. But ice is one of those things that you really can't travel in. Everything becomes just an ice rink out there. So it can really cripple travel can be a crippling scenario in general for anything, whether that be just getting out to run to the store or damage to homes, damage to infrastructure. So it's just not good all the way around. You can kind of see as you zoom in places like Atlanta, Columbia, South Carolina, Greenville, Charlotte. Now to the north, you can see Raleigh up into Central Virginia. That's where you're going to see more of a predominantly snowier situation. We'll likely have snow mixing with sleet and freezing rain, maybe changing over briefly for a time as that warm air sneaks in. But where you see the pinks, that's predominantly snow. Where you see the purples, that's predominantly ice, if not all ice. So let's dig into the timeline here, shall we? So, also 3:39. If you are watching us on Fox Local, heads up for a quick break here. We're going to take a little break for just a couple minutes, but if you don't want to miss anything, you can hop on Facebook, you can hop on YouTube. Also, a little PSA, please share this too on Facebook. Get the word out. We want to have as many people prepared if possible. Now, we'll talk a little bit about this as well. If you have any travel plans while we're in this break, be sure you're checking in with your airlines, because once those travel advisories get issued, that's when you can oftentimes change your flight without any consequences from the airline. So if that's something, whether you're traveling out of Central Florida, whether you're traveling into Central Florida, I am. We're streaming live.
Oh, okay.
I just saw your message come across.
Okay, sorry.
That's okay. We are going to continue to see likely the potential for really widespread travel implications, even for areas that don't see any winter weather. It's just going to be that domino effect. So if you are planning on flying through the sky, just be prepared for delays, if not widespread cancellations. Mark, thank you so much. I can only imagine it's a lot colder in England than it is in here, than it is in Florida. And I'm sure it's colder than what it is in our storm center as well. Hey, Tex, how's it going? It's your fault that we got cold weather because you don't have I don't have my bow tie on. I'm sorry. It's I accept the responsibility. Tex, where are you watching from? Hey, Brian. Friend driving to Illinois wants to leave Sunday. Probably depends on what time, Brian, and from where. But we're just about out of our break. Coming back from Fox Local, coming back into Fox Local. Hi there, friends. But Brian, this will probably help. We're gonna go into our Fox weather model here. So this is starting now. And you can see that cold air coming in from the northeast. So that's where you're seeing that sleet and freezing rain, that icy mix in portions of Oklahoma. Heavy snow in OKC. Heavy snow in Wichita, Kansas, as this continues to lift to the north and east. But it's essentially two different waves that we're seeing. And eventually that coastal wave takes over. But, Brian, you can see that snow. This is Sunday morning at 10. So, depending on, if you're northern Illinois, it depends on where you're going. If you're traveling north out of Illinois, south, east, west, it just kind of depends. So, let me know. Oh, your friends around Illinois from Florida. Yeah, Brian, that would not be a great idea. I would say that maybe they can start making the trek, and then maybe it just depends on, the route that they're taking. But obviously, the closer they get to Illinois, the closer they'll get to the winter weather. This is Sunday afternoon. And you can see snow falling across a good bit of Illinois, but to the south, depending on when they're leaving, they'll likely hit the rain and then they'll start to run into the wintry mixed precip. So not a great travel day all the way around. Tex, I love that. That's awesome. So let's continue to go through time here. So this is Saturday morning. You're seeing that snow falling across Arkansas, across southern Missouri, still across Oklahoma and Kansas, with that ice falling, that freezing rain turning into that icy mess across Arkansas, still northern Louisiana into northwestern Mississippi, and we're starting to see this warm air change that precip over in portions of Tennessee as well. So when you have a setup like this, we call it a Miller B system, and essentially that means a coastal low kind of takes over, and eventually that becomes the dominant system. The interior one transfers its energy, so to speak, and you have to look at the upper level pattern as well. That allows that coastal storm to develop, and that's going to be the one that really helps drive the snow up into New England. But it also creates just a tricky situation for precipitation type. When that changeover happens from snow to sleet to freezing rain to plain rain, it just throws, or it's tough as meteorologists to get just the exact timing sometimes of when that happens. And little changes, little shifts play a huge role when you're talking about precipitation types in those changeovers, and when you're looking at, say 25 to 50 miles, that can make a huge difference in who's seeing what type of precip and when. So it's one of those things that if you've lived in a part of the country that deals with winter weather, you know exactly what we're talking about, because it can change. It can change as the storm's happening. It can even change. So we're going to continue to watch all this. Hey Laura, how are you? Where in South Carolina are you talking about? Because we're actually just about to you here in the timing of the system heading into Sunday. But you can see that there's two areas of low pressure, and where that warm air is nosing up from the south, that's where you're seeing that changeover to plain rain and heavy rain at that. But notice this is 10 a.m. on Sunday, and across interior North Carolina and South Carolina, you can see that northeasterly wind. And when that wind is butting up against the mountains, that cold air becomes entrenched, and you can really see that precipitation hang on longer as more of a icy mix, whether that be plain freezing rain or sleet and freezing rain, whatever that may look like, likely more freezing rain than not. But that's what you're seeing across South Carolina, until we can see that torch, so to speak, that warm up of the entire atmospheric column into Sunday afternoon across the Carolinas. But notice up into the nation's capital, across central Virginia, that's happening as well. I mean, even potentially as far north as south central Pennsylvania, my old stomping grounds. Anyone's watching from the Susquehanna Valley, there could even be a changeover there. Now, if you remember earlier in the week, this was looking like more of a classic big time nor'easter, what we call Miller A system, or just kind of where the high pressure is stronger, and it can pump that colder air into the system essentially throughout the duration of the event itself. And that was not quite what happened, and we're seeing this setup instead, because I think if that was the case, we still would have had some ice for sure across the south, but it wouldn't have quite been this setup as far north where we saw that changeover. So as we head through the day on Sunday, you're seeing that snow across the Ohio Valley, and eventually that coastal, you can see it starts to kind of win out, and that's when you start to see that snow across upstate New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, all the way up into Maine, into our Monday, and you're still seeing some of that wraparound moisture as well with that upper level energy. So it's going to be a nasty few days across the nation. So once again, PSA: get your weather information from a trusted source. Don't just look at your weather app and say I'm going to go off of that. Get it from a human that, like us, like the storm team or your local meteorologist, whether that be from a news station that you like to watch or the National Weather Service. Make sure it's a trusted source, because there will be changes, I can only imagine, and changes as the storm continues to develop. So, Laura, you are northwest of Myrtle Beach. Got it. So I can actually zoom in, and we can kind of take it through time. Let's see here. Okay. What I might do, I might take off the fronts here so you can see a little bit better. Okay. So let's kind of take it through the weekend here for you, Laura. Okay, so we'll start off on Saturday here. You can see anywhere from essentially the entire coast, from Charleston southbound through Savannah, Georgia, that is. I mean, all the way down into the Georgia coast. But hopefully this helps. It's likely for you closer to Myrtle Beach, it's likely going to be mostly rain. I think it's going to be more the interior spots. So when you say northwest of Myrtle Beach, I mean, you have to be well northwest of Myrtle Beach, more interior South Carolina, Laura, to see any ice, see any of that dangerous freezing rain. So hopefully that kind of helps. You can kind of see as we widen the view just a little bit. This is the wee hours of Sunday morning. So most of the interior will be dealing with the freezing rain. Coastal spots, not so much. But it looks like certainly some heavy rain as the cold front begins to move through, Laura, as that reaches the coast heading into Monday. And then even for us in Florida, we'll be feeling that chill starting to take over. But hopefully that kind of answers your question. Hey, Alec, how are you? Thanks for hopping on. William, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it, man. If anybody else has any other questions, I know we're in a break from Fox Local right now, a break for Fox Local right now. But if anybody has any questions, please weigh in. Unique Centrone, what's up? Oh, you're in Kissimmee. Yeah, no, you will not. Won't be having any issues in Kissimmee. That's for sure. We're going to be feeling like late summer or early spring here on Sunday ahead of this system. Alec, yeah, I hope so too. Hoping that Lancaster can get through it. I know we don't have to worry about it down here. That's for dang sure. All right, welcome back, Fox Local friends. There's about 8 minutes left of Fox 35 Weather Plus. If anybody has any big questions, please throw them in. I don't think I'm missing any comments here from what I can see. Let's see. I don't think I'm missing anything. Okay. But yeah, about 8 minutes left of Fox 35 Weather Plus. So if something is on your mind weather-wise, whether it be about this storm or a local weather, which I'll dive into a little more. I know I was hitting on more of this wintry weather, despite it really not hitting us. But what I do want to do before we get off is I do want to hit on Spirit Wolfie. You're asking, is there any other snow opportunity after this storm? I'm assuming you're thinking here in Florida, potentially. Excuse me. So, which I'll show you here in a second. We're going to likely be below normal through essentially the entirety of next week. There has been some signals in the long-range data. Not really buying into that, but again, you've heard us mention the ensemble blends, and that's a way for us to kind of at least identify the large-scale setup. for what could be happening. And there's certainly a possibility that we could see maybe some snow in the Panhandle as another storm system moves in later on next weekend, late next week into the weekend. So we'll be watching that. But right now, nothing really that will likely bring any sort of large-scale, big winter weather to us, at least for now. But that's something we will continue to watch. So hopefully that kind of helps. But at least in terms of the temperatures, we'll have some cold air, and it looks like we could have some moisture. Before I show those long-range temperature trends, I did want to go through one more time the snow and the ice forecast. So this is starting now, going all the way through the weekend. Notice where you find the pinks and the purples. That is the heavier amounts of snow, where snow can be measured in feet versus inches. You can see that across northern Oklahoma as you head up through places like Tulsa, through St. Louis, through Louisville. And then as you start to see the coastal storm take over, that's where you're seeing some of that heavy snow, possibly between a foot up to maybe 18 inches, and not even a little more than that in some isolated spots. As you head up into upstate New York, Syracuse, Albany, over to Boston, Portland, Maine. But, I mean, millions of people being impacted by this storm, whether it be the snow or the ice. And even in places like Dallas and Lubbock, I mean, it's a place that you don't typically see this kind of widespread winter weather. So we talked about the snow. Let's dive into the ice here. So as we head through Saturday, again, Dallas into central Louisiana, into northwestern, sorry about that, northwestern Mississippi, Greenville, up to Tupelo, to Nashville. And then you see, as you get into the mountains, northwest of Greenville, South Carolina, north of Athens, Georgia. When you have that cold air butting up against the mountains, you can have that precipitation linger a little bit longer. And that's where you're seeing that potential for an inch plus of ice. And that's where we could be looking at those widespread power outages, not just for, a few hours, but potentially longer, for days. Linda, you're right. Yes, we're in Orlando. That's a very good tip. And Linda, I have to say, so being that I'm now down in Orlando, I've worked in a lot of places that have dealt with winter weather. Iowa, Missouri, Kansas, Pennsylvania, growing up in Maryland. So I'm definitely well versed in the winter weather forecasting, even though we don't do it here all the time. But when it's impacting such a big swath of the country, it's just such a big story in general. But yes, Linda was saying that be sure to get your information from a trusted source, whether that be the National Weather Service, your local meteorologist at your favorite local news station. But hey, we're happy to give it to you here from the Storm Team and the Storm Center as well. So, and if you're visiting Florida, always come down and get your forecast from us. So before we go, it's just about 3:58 here. Let's talk about the long-range temperature patterns for us here. So this is the end of January, heading into February 2nd. So you're seeing that darker shade of blue, well below normal temperatures expected for us as we head through the 6 to 10 day period. So this is Thursday through next weekend, and this is where we could have temperatures potentially only in the 40s and 50s, so lows down around freezing in Florida. And notice, it's not just us, but the whole eastern half of the nation. Now, as we go further into time, in the 8 to 14 day time frame, also a likelihood of staying below normal. So this is going to be the big headline as we head through next week and beyond, heading into the first week of February. And we'll have to watch, as I was saying, it's Not a lock that we'll see any more wintry weather in the southeast, but certainly with this pattern, when you have these big dips in the jet stream and you have that Arctic air spilling out of Canada across the country, there's certainly the chance for wintry precip in areas that don't often see it, just like we're seeing now. So if you're traveling, be careful, but don't recommend travel in the peak of this storm, wherever you're watching from, whether that be the Carolinas, whether that be Mid-Atlantic, whether that be Texas or the Ohio Valley or the Tennessee Valley, anywhere that's expected to get widespread winter weather, especially ice, travel not advised, and expect travel delays in the air as well. And be prepared to change plans, tweak plans, and potentially even cancel your flights and adjust the timing a little bit. So with that, we hope you have a wonderful weekend. Be sure to join Marlisa on the 407 here in just about 15 seconds. Then be sure to join John, Luann, and Noah for the news at 5, 6, 10, and 11. We'll see you later. Have a great rest of your weekend and Friday.